between the birds, the bats and the possums. And the bugs, it's really just not going that well this year. G'day there, it's Rachel here from Bush Edge Homesteading Australia, and I am just going for a bit of a walk in the garden this morning. It's super early, it's Saturday, everyone's in bed except me, and I'm having one of those moments where it's probably a good thing that I film from on the other side of the camera, because it means I can wander around, show you the garden whilst I'm having my cuppa, in my jammies, but with my gumboots, which is a very interesting look, let's just say. Now, I thought I'd take you guys for a bit of a walk around the garden because if I'm completely honest, this has been a pretty tough year for gardening. It's definitely not one of the greatest. I keep getting these Facebook memories that keep showing me wonderful produce that I've had in years past, and yeah, I'm just not getting that this year. But I have also seen a few comments from other people about their gardens and, you know, that they've had some similar struggles. Of course, some people also having some great success, but I just wanted to kind of show you what's going on here. So if you're one of those people that's having a few issues with your garden this year as well, that you kind of know that you're not alone. Like, we've just been absolutely smashed this year by, well, the weather. So last Monday we had 108 millimetres of rain it ended up being, and that is an awful lot. We are very, very grateful that we're on a hill up here in the Dandenong Ranges, but there were a lot of areas around Victoria that got absolutely smashed with the floods. So if you're one of those people in one of those areas, I really hope things are going okay with the cleanup, and hopefully the insurance and all that does the right thing by you guys. Yeah, so it's definitely a little bit of damage around from the rain that we had. We also have had a lot of issues this year with the birds and with the bats as well. They've taken a lot. The possums have also taken a lot, and the bugs have taken a lot, and they've done a few different things this year too. So I'm going to show you what they've been up to. There goes a cheeky bird now. I think they're heading towards the last of some of the apples, which I'll show you guys in a sec. All right, so let's start by having a drink. And let's get in and have a bit of a look at what's going on in these gardens. Alrighty, let's put that down. And let's start off in our first garden bed. So this one here, you saw me plant this out pretty much completely. And you can see that there's not a lot of the things that we planted together. There is the rosellas over here. There is a couple of the cucumbers. But even most of the cucumbers that we planted together, they're gone. We've had this really bad attack of the snails and slugs this year, which I think is a bit of a product of not having our ducks anymore. And they've been doing this thing. I'm just trying to see if I can find the base of this plant here, because I know they did it to this one, where basically they were snipping them off right at the base. Oh, can I find the base? Let's get in there together. Yeah. So this one's kind of healed up a lot, but what was happening is they were actually snipping off plants completely at the bottom, and I lost half of my cucumbers from the snails and slugs doing that in the garden, which was really disappointing because the plants had actually gotten a bit of decent size about them, and then all of a sudden you'd see the whole plant die and you'd see that it had been snipped off at the base. So I'm quite grateful these last ones are still here, and I am starting to see flowers now and also signs of some cucumbers, which is also really exciting. So hopefully we do still get a few cucumbers off these. Normally by now, at this time of the year, and at the moment we are kind of getting to mid-January, we're normally well and truly picking cucumbers. But not one cucumber so far these years, and as you can see, they're still quite immature. And that's because we have had really wet and quite cool summer so far up here in the ranges. You can probably see down here, it's still all looking really green, which is great for the sheep. Plenty of food and stuff for them this year, but yeah, it's not the greatest thing for the garden. Now, most of the other things that are in here are things that I've replanted because things just died that we planted together. So I've got some additional little tomatoes, which you can see are really, really small. Like, again, looking back at those Facebook memories, I'm often picking tomatoes by now, but some of these are like super duper small still. I do have some bigger ones that I'll show you in a little bit, but yeah, these are ones that I started from seed and they just took forever to get going. And these over here are our eggplant that we started from seed. And I genuinely don't think we're going to get eggplant off these this year. They are just way, way too small. We just haven't had the heat for them to grow well. All right, let's move along and I'll show you what's going on in the greenhouse. I think last time we looked at the greenhouse together, there was a lot of stuff in there, including our lemongrass, which is now pulled out to give me a bit of room. And we've also pulled out a lot of the chili plants. And I am just starting to get the first red Korean chilies. So that is super duper exciting. And that's one of the great things about overwintering chili and capsicum plants is that, you know, you do kind of get a little bit of a jump start. I definitely wouldn't be at this level if we hadn't have been doing that this year. So I am very, very glad we do. But heading into the greenhouse, you can see, so if I stand back a little bit, it's a little bit more cleared out than last time, but I have still not got rid of this big fig yet. I need to get that out into the garden. It's well and truly taking over the bed with all the chilies and the capsicums. Now, I have put a couple of new plants in here. I don't want to talk too much about them, but just kind of in the corner here, we've got a couple of a new type of chili. And we do over here as well. And oh my goodness, it looks like the bugs are starting to get to this one. That was not like that even yesterday. So I'll probably put a bit of pyrethrum on that to deal with that. Otherwise this plant's just going to get eaten up because I have lost a couple of these already. But I do have a video coming up on these special plants, which was part of a swap that I did with one of you guys. So if that's you and you know what's coming, look out for that video that's coming up. And yeah, I am pretty excited about these new plants here. You can also see a lot of our habaneros, jalapenos are growing well, and we're starting to get chilies, which is really exciting because we are out of homemade chili sauce at the moment. So we'll be able to make some of that hopefully soon, but we are starting to get them for fresh eating, which is good. And again, that's all thanks to the greenhouse area kind of protecting these plants from all those things that have been attacking everything else. And for capsicums, I have been seeing people are picking capsicums already. We're still a little bit of a ways off, but there are a couple that are coming through. Hopefully if we get a bit of warm weather, especially this one here, hopefully that's not too far off now. Other than that, we've got some of our carnivorous plants. What else? We got a few cuttings and things like that up here. A couple more of those chili plants from that seed swap I did. And look how big this is now. I'm going to have to move right back for this one. This one here is one of those quince that my son grew from a quince plant. And we were having a bit of a chat the other day as we were going for a bit of a walk up at one of the diggers' gardens that he wants to turn that into a bonsai, which I think is really, really cool. And I reckon that will go really well. Have we done a bonsai before? Absolutely not. So if you've got any tips on how to actually be successful at that, given he's grown that right from a little seedling that he found under one of our quince trees, I'd love to hear your tips. So yeah, I reckon that'll be an exciting project. Now, pretty much all the things that are in this kind of raised garden area here are things that have kind of popped up and self-seeded, with the exception of some of these onions, which I did plant. But, you know, all these tomatoes here, I didn't actually intentionally plant them. All the flowers, they're all self-seeded this year. I really haven't planted anything intentionally in there, just knowing that we're doing a little bit of work in here and I didn't want them to get eaten and things like that. So yeah, it looks pretty at the moment because of a lot of those beautiful flowers that have popped up. And I am hoping to get a few tomatoes where the tomatoes have kind of self-seeded. Often I find the ones that naturalise and pop up themselves are some of the better ones that we end up having. don't know what they're going to be. They could be probably Amish paste, they could be Burnley Bounty, they could be some of the little cherry tomatoes that kind of came in with some mulch, and we still don't know what they actually are. But yeah, it will be nice to get a bit of an extra taste if some of those do start producing fruit soon. This big plant here is another one that's kind of come out of the greenhouse recently, and that was from a swap I did with the Dandenong Ranges swap group with a lovely lady called Kayleen, who's got a channel as well. I'll pop a little thing of that here on YouTube. And she mentioned this was, I think she said it was like a black chili. She did send me the name of it. But yeah, look, they're starting to grow really well. Again, this was in the greenhouse, so one of the things that did do fairly well here. Unlike this bed kind of over here. So in here, I think last time we got together, there was a lot of the garlic. I have harvested all my garlic crop now. So that's why this area is largely bare, but I did replant that with a lot of those seedlings of pumpkins. And this is another example of kind of like how they kind of got snipped off and died. And even the ones that have survived, they're just not doing that well considering, I mean, I know I did a late planting with you guys, but yeah, that is just really underdeveloped for this time of the year. And there's no way I'm going to get pumpkins off that. So I think all of these pumpkin seedlings are a bit of a loss, sadly. I had them planted here and here and here, and the bugs have just absolutely eaten them off, and they're just gone. There's another one that's left. Another one gone, another one gone, another one gone. And just look at how spindly these are, yellow. You know, and it's not because of the soil. We did a lot of work on the soil before we did planting this year. And yeah, there was a lot of really good compost and, you know, aged sheep poo and stuff like that put in. But yeah, they just have not done well this year at all. The beans, however, are starting to go really well. So this is actually one of the highlights of the garden at the moment. We have been picking beans, and looks like we've got more of a pick to do today, which is really cool. As you saw, I think in my last catch-up video on the garden, we did lose a few of the bean plants. So all these ones are kind of being picked off the mature ones that did actually survive. But we did plant a few more seeds at that time, and that's these little guys here. So I haven't actually done successions of beans before. Normally I just plant them all one off for the season. They produce over a good period of time. And yeah, whatever excess I have, I normally actually freeze that. But this year, it'll be interesting to see if having kind of this succession actually extends the season. Behind that, we've got those Cape gooseberries, which are still growing amazingly well. But underneath those, our carrots and our beetroot have not done so well. So these are the ones that we put in as seeds when we planted together. And they are teeny tiny. Yeah, I'm not sure how we're going to go. And we seem to have quite a few up this end. The other end, they got eaten out. When it comes to the beetroot, I mean, they have pretty much done nothing. That's our beetroot seedlings that have been in for, well, what would it be? Probably, it's well over a couple of months now. Yeah, it's getting to the point I just think they're going to be a bit of a loss, to be honest. Moving around, yes, a couple more of those lovely chilies that I planted out. And another bug attack, which is really disappointing because we've worked so hard growing those from seeds. The flowers, however, are gifting, and that is one of the real highlights in the garden. You know, it gives me absolute joy to come out here and see flowers that look like that in the garden. How absolutely gorgeous is that? And to think, you know, a couple of years ago, I wasn't planting flowers because I thought that flowers in the garden were a bit of a waste of time. You know, we've got the bush around us and the bees have plenty of feed and stuff like that. So if we were ever going to plant flowers, it was always going to be just for us. And I thought, hey, that's going to use up valuable food space. But you know what? This feeds the soul. Now, aside from the flowers in here, we have a lot more of those Cape gooseberries, ground cherries. The boys have been collecting like big bowls of these, and we've been eating heaps. We've been sharing them, and you can still see how many we've got. So yeah, they are definitely something that's gifting. I haven't had these until the last couple of years though. And that means I don't have a lot of like preserving recipes or anything like that up my sleeve. So if you've got some ideas on how to use these guys, I would definitely be keen to hear how you use them up when you have an excess of these Cape gooseberries. Now, I know it's probably not looking too bad at the moment, but this is one of the areas where in the big rains we got absolutely smashed. The water was kind of coming through under the house, running across the retaining walls, running through the garden, running over the path, and then kind of in through the garden beds and down the hill. Thankfully, not too much damage, and we do need to do a bit of work on our paths anyway, but yeah, we did get a bit of washing out further along. Now, on this side of this second bed, now I can't remember exactly if these were the zucchini or the squash. I know we did squash on one side and we did zucchini on the other. Whichever one these are, they are not doing well. And again, you can kind of see where it got snipped off. This is the sort of thing that we've been getting from those bugs and slugs. And this one here is not doing too much better. So again, I don't think we're going to get any produce off those. I've done a couple of lots of planting behind them now. That's kind of the remnants of some, I think it was, well, I thought it was silver beet, but that doesn't look like silver beet. That's not growing either. Yeah, again, it just all kind of popped up, but then most of it got hammered by bugs and there's just nothing left. Now, whichever one these are though, whether that's the zucchini or I think it might be the zucchini because I think we're starting to see some grow in here actually. There we go. Yes, that looks like zucchini, which is great because there's only two plants, this one and this one, that seem to be growing out of zucchini this year. So I think for the first time ever of being a gardener, I'm not going to have a zucchini glut this year. Yeah, I might actually need to swap for some zucchini at our swap group, which is just absolutely crazy to think about. All right, moving around, what else have we got through here? A lot of our parsley is going to seed. Behind that, we've got our pumpkins. These ones are, I think these were the Queensland Blue, although they're looking really small. Again, I'd say that's kind of a product of the weather that we've been having. And again, this late in the season, I'm just not sure if we're actually going to get pumpkins off those, being as late as they are. And here's another example, actually, if I jump in, of what those bugs have been doing. This is actually probably a bit of a better example. They just get in, and even though they're a big plant, they just kind of have been snipping them off at the base, and then the whole plant dies. This one here is calloused over a bit, so hopefully it will survive, but I think that's why that plant's just not doing too well at the moment. It's just not enough nutrition being able to move through that plant. What we do have in this area though is these, and these are some absolutely gorgeous cosmos that Kat gave me from 5 Acre Farm. So again, it's kind of the flowers at the moment that are gifting in the garden, and my goodness, they're so pretty. All right, continuing to move through, we've got our raspberries, and thank goodness hubby did this structure over the top of our raspberries and netted them, because we have actually got raspberries this year, and oh, they have been so good. There's some hiding in there at the moment, safely under the protection of the netting. It is a bit sad, but up here, you know, I think as you'll see in a minute, if we don't net, we don't get here. And this has meant that we've had beautiful raspberries for things like raspberry jams and fresh eating. I've been doing a lot of the chocolate raspberry recipes that particularly the kids love. Things like chocolate raspberry jam and the chocolate raspberry sundae topper, which is absolutely delicious. So it actually looks like we could probably come out and do a bit of a pick again later today. Oh, before we move on, over here, I should mention this year I got my very first peony flowering, which was super duper exciting. Obviously, nothing's really flowering in here at the moment, but this was the second year for that plant, so that was really cool to actually start to get some flowers. Now behind it looks like a massively wild jungle, and that's all of our asparagus. And I've kind of left all these asparagus to go to fern. That'll kind of build up the health and the strength of those plants. And this is what asparagus looks like if you haven't actually seen asparagus before. as kind of like its ferny state. Essentially what happens is you get from the base here, the little shoots kind of pop up, and it's actually those fern shoots that are the asparagus you get from the shops. But this is what the plant looks like when you kind of let it go. What will happen is that'll all die off, and when that dies off, you snip it off at the base and it'll be a completely clear bed. And after that, it will kind of start popping up again in the spring, and that'll be those yummy shoots you eat. Over here, we've got some rosella. This is the very first time I've ever grown rosella. So you saw I had 3 in that first patch we looked at. I've got 2 more here. It'd be really cool if I do start to get that producing, because I always see these beautiful shares of things like rosella jam and think, oh, that would be so cool to make something like that. Above, more flowers, but with all the weather that we had, I've lost a lot of I had a lot of dahlias and peonies and things like that. Probably should have lifted them. It just got way too wet in this bed, and a lot of those have kind of died out. I'm going to have to do a bit of work on the bed actually, because you can even see here where the water's been running through and it's kind of washing out. Coming over here, it's washing out through here as well at the moment under the compost bay. I've kind of stuffed in one of the bags just to try and hold back a little bit of the water so that some of the soil that's kind of washing hopefully starts to build up and fills that hole again. Now this area here is a little bit more successful, again under net. It seems like all the good things that I want to show you have to be under a bit of net. Not only net but also some Rio as well, because Cooper, who you may have seen is the dog that we brought into our family, he decided he liked this spot for burying some bones. So I put the Rio up for that. But also we were having some issues with something else, and we never actually worked out exactly what it was, getting in there and kind of pulling out plants. I don't know if that was the cockies attacking again or what the go was, because they have been a bit weird and attacky of my plants this year. But yeah, something was getting stuck in there. But I don't know if you can see under there, the plants are actually doing not too bad in here. And we are now starting to get some tomatoes. Let's see if I can get in on an angle where you can see a bit better. I know this looks pretty ugly, but this is something else I was using just to keep things out of the garden. But let's have a look. See in here, we are now starting to get tomatoes starting to form. They're not particularly mature yet, but there is some promise that I am going to get tomatoes out of this bed. And that is exciting, because it's not looking great on a lot of stuff, as you've seen. Now, one of those areas that just is not looking that promising is this area here. And we have heaps of fruit trees through here. We've got like multiple apple trees, we've got pear trees, we've got plums, nectarines, peaches, and the birds have pretty much stolen everything through here, with the exception of what we've still got under this apple tree here. In fact, I think I can hear them up the tree there shouting at me, telling me to go away because they want to come down here again. Like if we go over here and have a bit of a look, this is a bit of an example of the sort of thing that's been happening. And this is one of our pear trees. And you can probably see there is not a single piece of fruit on this tree anywhere to be seen. In fact, at one point of time, there was not even foliage on a lot of this tree because the possums, we were actually having a lot of ringtails sitting in here when this was kind of flowering and the first little fruit was popping up and it had the little tender new leaves, and they were just sitting in here absolutely stripping the trees. They seem to have moved on to some of the other fruit now, but yeah, did the same thing with this one here. This is another one of our pear trees. They really seem to like the pear trees. Nashi, not a thing in it. Apricot tree behind it, not a thing in it. But thankfully, oh, actually in here, this is one of our apple trees. Again, not a single thing in it. Underneath here, there are some apples hiding away under that net, and yeah, that's the only way we're actually going to get any fruit this year. This one's one of our nectarine trees, and again, not one single piece of fruit off that. Thankfully though, my son's blueberries, again, we did net that quite tightly. And I'm not sure if you can see under there, But we are getting lots of yummy blueberries, and in fact we've been getting so many blueberries off our blueberry plants that we've actually been putting some in the freezer, and that's been pretty cool. Oh, I nearly forgot to show you guys this corn. So this crop of corn that I have here is actually from some seed that I got at our swap group. Planted pretty much the whole cob in here, and that's actually growing fairly well. Yeah, I think with all the moisture, and now we're starting to get a little bit of warmth as well, it's kind of started taking off. So it'll be interesting to see if I actually get some corn off of all that. There's a whole bunch of apples that have all been dropped on the ground. It's one of the frustrating things is that, you know, with all of those things attacking our fruit, they don't even always eat them all. Often they're just, you know, taking a bite, dropping, moving to the next piece. Yeah, it's a bit, I'll be honest, it's a little bit gutting. Hubby's started calling me the crazy bird lady because I come running outside when I hear the big flocks coming through with the broom, waving it around, trying to scare away the birds. Go on, get him, Coops! Shoo! Shoo! I think I was a bit too slow this morning. Oh, but got into all of them. I think I'm the anti-bird lady actually at the moment. I normally love the birds in the hills, but yeah, at the moment it is very, very frustrating losing as much as we've lost this year. You know, I know nature takes its share, but this year they're just taking everything. One thing I did do with our peaches this year is I was a bit strategic and I netted a single branch. This tree is just way too big to net the entire thing at the moment, but what I did is I just kind of netted the branch I had here so that I at least got one branch of fruit, and it was nice to actually get a little bit of a taste. Up on the deck, things are not going too bad. Haven't had the cockies back pulling everything out again. The strawberries have been really gifting us a lot of strawberries, which has been awesome. And I've just replanted this stacky out. I've got a bunch of, these ones here are corianders. Come around where there's some better light. So a lot of those popped up. That's just seed that I actually grabbed off the last coriander that I was growing in there, which is that one there. And at the bottom, I did pop in the other day, I can't remember now if it was, I think it was spinach, and they are just starting to pop up as well. And with the veggie pod, if we open that up, I've again kind of replanted this out. What I did is I actually revived the soil a bit because it was looking a bit dry and not particularly organic anymore. So I grabbed one of the trays out of my worm farm and basically put in a whole tray of worm castings. And it's been really cool because I've been seeing a lot of worm activity in here now, but from the worm castings, there was actually still seed. So I'm not sure what that is. I think that's the same. This looks like something different again, but yeah, a bunch of seeds have kind of started germinating, and you know, they look like they could be something like cucumber or zucchini or maybe pumpkin. And because of what you saw down in the garden, I'm going to let those grow and just see what happens. But I do have a lot of the other seeds that I have actually purposefully seeded in here. Things like I've got some spinach. I'm going to have to come in and thin some of this out. There's also some more coriander. We like coriander, and it'll be good to get some more. We're kind of all out, as you saw in the garden. We don't have any at the moment that we're actually picking, and I'm kind of missing that at this time of the year. And also some bok choy as well. Now, I won't go through all of the front garden because, to be honest, a lot of the things that I was just talking about with our fruit trees on the orchard side of the house, same kind of things have been going on out here. Again, the birds have just been stripping whatever they possibly can. This one blueberry plant I have netted, so we have actually been getting blueberries off this one here. The figs are nowhere near ready, and yeah, well, they're already starting to get plucked off, which is kind of disappointing. Weeds wise, doing a little bit of work at the moment under our persimmon tree, just kind of putting out cardboard. Oh, actually, but the one thing I should show you out here that is doing really, really well is these guys. These are a whole bunch of cool season kind of dwarf bananas. I can't remember the exact type because I've had these now for probably well over a decade. They were gifted to me by a friend. We had them in a little pot on the side of the house, and all of these are pups off of that one plant that she gifted me. And I had a suggestion to pop them in this location. Again, that was kind of from Kayleen. She mentioned that she's at the other end of the ranges, that she'd had kind of like a wet spot up there, and that bananas have gone successfully up there, and that in my wet spot out the front that also dries out really hard in the summertime, that these could potentially do okay. So I planted them here now. This is actually their second summer, and yeah, they're growing really, really well. In all the years I've had them, they've never ever fruited or anything like that, but yeah, it's kind of lovely foliage to see outside the window, and who knows, now that they're growing so well in this location, maybe in the future we will get a banana. So yeah, that's essentially our garden this year. Normally it's a lot more productive at this time of the year. Normally we're picking lots of stuff, starting to preserve lots of stuff, but yeah, it's all looking a bit lean and not that great this year. But that's just the reality of some years of gardening. Yeah, so I thought I'd just let those of you know that if you are one of those people that's also struggling a bit this year, you're not the only one. And massive kudos to those of you that are having successful gardens this year. It's really exciting to kind of live vicariously through some of your shares that you guys are doing where things are a success. All right, I reckon that's a great place to wrap. So as always, guys, thanks a bunch for joining, and catch you later.